Hi guys. All right, we've traveled around the house a bit. We've ended in Legoland. This is the disaster area that my children call their Lego area. So today I'm going to read in Legoland, starting chapter 6, The Shadow Warrior. Jack and Annie went into the cave. They followed the ninja through the darkness. The back of the cave was lit with dozens of candles. Shadows danced on the walls. In the flickering light, Jack saw a dark figure sitting on a woven mat. The Ninja Master. The ninja bowed to the master. Then he stepped to one side. The master stared at Jack and Annie. "Sit," he said. Jack and Annie sat on the cold, hard floor. Squeak! The mouse poked its head out of Annie's pouch. "It's okay, Peanut," said Annie. The master stared at the mouse for a moment. Then he looked at Jack. "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm Jack, and that's my sister Annie," and Jack answered. There they are, seeing the Ninja Master. "Where do you come from?" the master asked. "Frog Creek, Pennsylvania," Annie answered. "Why are you here?" he asked. "We're trying to help our friend Morgan Le Fay," said Jack. "She left us a message." Annie pointed to the short ninja. "We gave the message to him." "You mean you gave the message to her?" said the Ninja Master. "And she has given it to me." "She?" said Jack and Annie together. The woman ninja's eyes sparkled. Jack thought she might be smiling. The master held up Morgan's note. "Perhaps I can help you," he said. "But first you must prove yourselves worthy of my help." Just then, the tall ninja appeared. He made a sign to the master. The master stood up. He handed Morgan's note to Annie. "We must go now," he said. "The samurai are close. "Samurai?" said Jack. He knew that the samurai were fierce Japanese fighters. "Were they the ones in the valley? Jack asked. "The ones with torches?" "Yes. Our family is at war with them," said the master. "We must leave before they find us." "But what about helping Morgan?" said Annie. The master strapped on his sword. "I have no time now," he said. "I must go." "Can't we go with you?" said Annie. "No, there is no place for you where we are going. You must find your way back to your house in the trees." "Alone?" said Jack. "Yes, you must go alone, and beware of the samurai." "Why?" said Jack. "They'll think you are one of us," said the master. "They will ask you no questions. They will show you no mercy." "Yikes," whispered Annie. "But you have seen the way of the ninja. You have practiced it yourselves now," said the master. "How?" said Jack. "Remember 3 things," said the master. "What?" said Jack. "Use nature. Be nature. Follow nature." "I can do that," Annie said. Jack looked at her. "You can?" he said. The master turned to Jack. "Your treehouse lies to the east. This is the way you must go," he said. "How?" wondered Jack. "How do we find the east?" Before he could ask, the master bowed, and then he disappeared into the shadows. The 2 ninjas led Jack and Annie out of the cave into the moonlight. The tall one pointed at the pine forest. Then they too disappeared into the darkness. Jack and Annie were all alone. Chapter 7, To the East. Jack and Annie stood still for a long moment. Annie spoke first. Well, I guess the tall ninja was pointing to the east, she said. I guess that's the way we go. Wait, said Jack. I need to write some stuff down. He took out his notebook. In the moonlight, he wrote, 1. Use nature. 2. Be nature. 3. Follow nature. Look, Jack, whispered Annie. Do I look like a ninja? He looked at her. She had pulled her sweatshirt hoodie over her head and tied the strings tightly. She did look like a ninja, a very small one. Good idea, Jack whispered. He pulled his hood up too. Okay, let's go, said Annie. Jack put his notebook away. Then he and Annie headed east into the woods. They slipped between trees, and more trees, and more trees. All the trees looked the same. Jack got confused. Were they still going in the right direction? Wait, he said, and he stopped. They both stared at the woods around them. Do you think we're still going east? Asked Jack. I guess so, said Annie. We can't just guess, said Jack. We have to know for sure. Well, how do we do that? said Annie. We don't have a compass. Just then, the master's words came back to Jack. The ninja master said, to use nature. He said, how do we do that? Said Annie. Wait, I remember something. Jack closed his eyes. He remembered something in his camping book. Now, what was it? He opened his eyes. I've got it. First, we need a stick, he said. Annie picked up a stick. Here, she said. Great. Now we need a space with moonlight, said Jack. There, said Annie. They moved into a moonlit space between the shadows. Now push the stick into the ground, Jack said. Annie pushed the stick into the ground. The stick's shadow looks like it's more than 6 inches, said Jack. What do you think? It looks like it, said Annie. Okay, then that means the shadow's pointing east, said Jack. Neat, said Annie. So that way is east. Jack pointed to a new direction. At least I hope it is. We're real ninjas now, said Annie. Yep, said Jack. Maybe we are. Come on. They took off, headed east, they hoped. Soon they were out of the pine woods and walking down the rocky mountainside. They moved slowly from rock to rock. Finally, they rested against a giant rock. Let's check our directions again, said Jack. Annie stuck another stick into the dirt. There, he said. He pointed to the shadow on the ground. Annie peeked over the rock, down the mountain. Yikes, she said softly. Jack looked too. His heart nearly stopped. There were flames of fire coming up the mountain. The samurai. Jack and Annie ducked behind the rock. Squeak, said the mouse. Quiet, Peanut, said Annie. Jack reached into his pack. He pulled out the ninja book. I hope something in here can help us, he said. Jack flipped through the pages page after page until he found what he was looking for. It was a picture of warriors wearing bamboo armor, and they were holding swords. He read, the samurai were fierce Japanese fighters. They carried 2 swords to cut down their enemies. Annie tapped Jack on the shoulder. Jack looked at her. She pointed up the mountain. A figure was coming down towards them. It was very near. In the moonlight, the bamboo armor was shining. His 2 swords were gleaming. It was a samurai warrior. And there's a picture. All right, coming up next, chapter 8 and 9.